Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I am up in northern New Hampshire on assignment doing some work photographing both wildlife and landscape. The topic for today's video is going to be landscape photography. When I go out and shoot my landscapes, and most photographers when they go out and shoot their landscapes are really going to carry with them three lenses. They're going to carry a wide angle lens. That wide angle lens is going to allow them to most notably have some great foreground interest and really make that the story of the shot by shooting really super wide and allowing that foreground interest to really dominate the scene, and then it opens up expansively to some scene or to some landscape behind there. The second lens that's carried is some sort of medium telephoto lens, something like a 24 to 105, which is what I carry. That 24 to 105 is super versatile. It allows you to go wide if you want to, but also narrow in on your subject a bit more. And then the third lens that people carry, and this is really what I want to talk about today, is the 100 to 500 or some level of telephoto zoom lens that allows them to really zoom in on their subjects. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think the 100 to 500 lens is a super versatile landscape lens, and I don't know if it's used a whole lot. So what I want to give you today is 3 reasons why you should be shooting with your 100 to 500 lens, and then a bonus tip at the end if you stick around. The first reason why I think people should be using their telephoto lens more often is because it isolates the subject for you. And in fact, it almost identifies the subject for you. I came across this a couple of weeks ago when I was down in Parker River Wildlife Refuge in Massachusetts. We had a beautiful morning with beautiful light, and the marsh was at high tide, and we had this beautiful blue water with the green marsh. It was just a gorgeous scene. The problem was that my wide angle lens, which would be a typical landscape lens, really wasn't going to tell the story. It was just going to have this wide, expansive image without a particular subject in mind. And it wasn't until I put on my 100 to 500 lens and I started hunting around looking for the story that I saw this little S-curve in the marsh. And that S-curve became the story. So it was that 100 to 500 lens that allowed me to see the story or see the subject of my story on that day. That wide angle lens just wasn't going to do it. So that little S-curve sort of became visible once I put the 100 to 500 on. So I do this all the time to isolate subjects. When I'm out in the Grand Tetons, I'm using my 100 to 500 to isolate mountaintops, or I'll use it to isolate trees in the middle of a forest, or trees across a pond or a lake like this that wouldn't otherwise be seen, or wouldn't be so small in the frame with a wide angle lens that it just wouldn't really even be noticed in the image. So by taking out my 100 to 500 lens and isolating the subject, I'm really saying, here's the story. This is the subject of my story today in this wide expanse of a landscape. This is the one thing I want you to focus on. And I'm going to isolate that with my 100 to 500 lens. So isolation is the first reason why you should use your telephoto lens more frequently. The second reason why I like using longer lenses in my landscape photography is this concept of compression. The idea of taking these really large scenes and compressing them into smaller spaces. It allows the distance, the appearance of the distance between subjects in my scene from foreground to midground to background to be shrunken quite a bit. Let me show you some examples. So I've taken the same scene from the same location, everything else equal. All I did was I changed my focal length. So the first image is 100 millimeters, second image is 300 millimeters, and the third image is 500 millimeters. And one of the things that I hope you notice is that we go from 1 to 3 to 500, that the back of the scene and the front of the scene seem to come together, and they seem to be much closer together. In fact, if you take a look at this image, you'll see, I hope you notice that the distance from the island to the tree behind the island really compresses quite a bit. And by doing that, what I'm doing is really simplifying the scene. Kind of goes well with the first tip, which was isolation. So we talked earlier about isolating your subjects in a way that makes the scene really simple. Here we're going to compress the scene to make the scene really simple as well. And by doing that, by doing those first two things, what we're able to do is we're able to tell our viewer, show our viewer, hey, this is what we want you to take a look at. This is the subject, this is the story I'm trying to tell. It's a very simple story, and I'm simplifying it by isolating it and compressing it using my longer lens. The third benefit to using your longer lens is much more creative and maybe a bit more fun. It's something, frankly, I don't do a lot of, but whenever I do it, I think, gosh, I wish I did more of it. And that is abstracts. So when I'm talking about abstracts, I'm talking about picking out little nuggets of a scene, a much larger scene, and doing something maybe totally different with them. I'm talking about maybe photographing colors on the flow of a river cascade, or colors in the ripples of water from foliage that's across and reflecting on the pond that's in front of you. Or maybe you have some blowing grasses in front of you, and you set up your camera with a long lens and you isolate those grasses and you slow down your shutter speed, and you end up with this beautiful motion blur as a result. Either way, you can just have fun and you do things you wouldn't normally do with that longer lens. You isolate that little piece and then you do something maybe a little bit more abstract with it than you would have otherwise been able to do with a wider angle lens. The other beautiful thing about this is that it really is location agnostic. You don't have to be somewhere special to create an abstract. You can find a reflection in a pond anywhere, or grasses blowing anywhere, or a little river cascade anywhere. So you don't have to go somewhere special to create an abstract image. You can create it really wherever you are. And so, along with isolation, compression, I would say that the third reason to use your longer lens is to make fun and creative abstracts while you're doing the work that you love to do. So there you have it. The 3 reasons why I think we should be shooting with a longer lens more frequently in landscape photography. We want to isolate our subject, we want to compress our scene, and we want to be creative with abstracts. And then I had a bonus tip. If you're a wildlife photographer like myself, you love the fact that all you got to do is change modes. Since you already have that longer lens on, you just got to change modes on your camera. For me, it's custom mode 1, and I'm shooting wildlife immediately without having to fumble with my lens or do anything else. So I hope you found this really helpful and useful, and it improves your photography. What I'd love for you to do is give me a like and a follow down below, and also in the comments, tell me why you use a telephoto lens in your landscape photography. What did I miss? What did I not share today that you think would also be helpful? That would be great to read, and I'd love to respond to those comments below. So that's it for today. We'll see you next time. Take care.